Here is the thing nobody tells you when you get your first real paycheck. The moment that money hits your account, at least 4 different institutions already have a plan for it. Your bank wants to hold it at 0.01% interest while lending it out at 7%. Credit card companies want you to spend it on things you don't need so they can charge the merchant 2.5% and charge you 24% if you carry a balance. The government takes its cut before you ever see the number, and inflation, running quietly in the background, is shrinking what's left by another 3% every single year you leave it sitting still. Nobody sat you down and explained that. Nobody drew you a diagram. You were handed a paycheck and left to figure out a financial system that was designed by the wealthy for the wealthy, using rules that were never taught in any classroom you sat in. So right now, if you have $1,000, maybe it's savings, maybe it's a tax return, maybe it's the first real money you've ever had sitting in your account, and you're watching this video trying to figure out what to do with it, I want you to understand something before we go anywhere. That $1,000 is not small money. It is a seed, and the difference between someone who turns that seed into $100,000 and someone who watches it quietly disappear into subscriptions and price increases and emergency expenses is not intelligence. It is not income. It is one decision made at the right moment with the right understanding of how compounding actually functions in the real world. That's what this video is about. Not theory, not motivation, a precise tactical breakdown of exactly how a person with 0 investing experience, 0 financial background, and $1,000 to their name can build a position in the S&P 500 that grows, compounds, and reaches a $100,000 milestone with math you can verify, a structure you can replicate, and a strategy you can start this week. But before we get to the number, and there is a very specific number at the center of this, I need to show you why most people never get there. Not because they can't, because they were handed the wrong map. The financial myth most people are living inside of right now is this: that building wealth is about how much you earn, that if you just made a little more, got the raise, landed the promotion, picked up the side hustle, then you'd be able to start, you'd be able to invest, you'd be able to get ahead. That belief is costing people decades. Wealth is not an income problem. It is a behavior and timing problem. And the timing piece is the part the financial industry quietly hopes you never figure out. Because every year you wait is another year your money sits in their products instead of yours. Here is the uncomfortable truth sitting underneath this entire video. The S&P 500 has returned an average of roughly 10% per year over the last 50 years, through recessions, crashes, wars, pandemics, and political chaos. 10%, annualized, over and over. That means if your $1,000 is sitting in a savings account earning 0.5%, the gap between what you're earning and what the market is returning is 9.5 percentage points per year. That gap compounds, and it compounds against you. Every single year you delay, the distance between where you are and where you could be gets wider, not narrower. That is the threat. That is the financial gravity pulling silently on every dollar you have parked somewhere that isn't working. Now let me show you how to stop it. The vehicle is the S&P 500, specifically an index fund that tracks it. If you've never heard those words before, here's the clean version. The S&P 500 is a list of the 500 largest publicly traded companies in the United States. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Visa, Johnson & Johnson, the companies whose products you use every single day. When you buy an S&P 500 index fund, you are buying a fractional ownership stake in all 500 of those companies at once. Not one stock, not a bet on one company, the entire engine of the American economy in one purchase. The fund does the work. It automatically adjusts when companies grow and shrink in size. It reinvests dividends. It tracks the index without you having to make a single active decision. The expense ratio, the fee you pay, on the best index funds available today is between 0.03% and 0.20% per year. That is not a typo. For every $10,000 you have invested, you pay between $3 and $20 per year in fees.
Compare that to an actively managed mutual fund that charges 1% or more and statistically underperforms the index anyway. That's the first invisible drain most people never notice. They're paying 10 to 30 times more in fees for worse results. So the starting point is simple, an S&P 500 index fund at the lowest expense ratio you can find. The three most accessible options for someone starting today are Fidelity's FZROX with a 0% expense ratio, 0, not a typo, Vanguard's VOO at 0.03%, and Schwab's SCHB at 0.03%. Any of these is the right answer. Pick one and move forward. The analysis paralysis of trying to choose the perfect fund is itself a wealth killer. Done is better than optimized when it comes to starting. Now, let's talk about the math that actually builds $100,000 from $1,000, because this is where most financial content either lies to you or leaves out the piece that makes the whole thing work. Your $1,000 is not going to become $100,000 by sitting still. The compounding engine needs two things to function: principal and time. But between those two, there's a third variable that most videos skip entirely: consistent contribution, the monthly deposit that feeds the machine while the machine feeds itself. Here's the structure. You open a brokerage account, Fidelity, Schwab, or Vanguard, all free, all no minimum. You deposit your $1,000 as your starting position, and you commit to adding a fixed amount every single month. The amount matters less than the consistency. Let me show you why. If you invest your $1,000 today and add $200 per month, less than the average American spends on dining out, and the S&P 500 returns its historical average of 10% annually, here's what that position looks like over time. At the end of year one, your account sits at roughly $3,500, mostly your own contributions. The market hasn't had enough runway yet to do much work. This is the phase most people quit because nothing feels like it's happening. They see $3,500 and feel like they're failing. They are not failing. They are planting. By year 3, the account reaches approximately $9,800. You've put in around $8,200 of your own money. The market has added $1,600 on top. It's starting. The engine is warming up. By year 5, you cross $15,700. Your contributions total $13,000. The market has now added $2,700. The gap between what you put in and what the market gives back is widening. This is compounding beginning to assert itself. It's quiet, it's not dramatic, but it's real. Now, pay attention here because this is where the math shifts character. By year 7, your account hits $27,000. You've personally contributed $17,800. The market has added $9,200. For the first time, the market is contributing meaningfully, not just token interest, but real capital growth on top of your deposits. By year 10, you're sitting at $44,600. You personally contributed $25,000. The market added $19,600. The market is now giving you back more than 75 cents for every dollar you put in, and it's accelerating. This is the point in most financial videos where they stop. They show you 10 years and call it a success story. But we're not stopping here, and here is why. The $100,000 target is not a 10-year story on $200 a month. It's a 13-year story. And what happens between year 10 and year 13 is the reason compounding gets called the eighth wonder of the world. By year 11, the account crosses $54,000. The market added $28,000 on top of your $26,000. The market is now contributing more than you are. You have crossed the inflection point, the moment where your money is working harder than you are. By year 12, the balance reaches $64,000. By year 13, it breaks through $75,000. And then something shifts in the curve. The acceleration becomes visible. By year 14, you're at $89,000. And somewhere in month 8 or 9 of year 15, the account crosses $100,000.
Total amount you personally contributed across those 15 years at $200 a month, $37,000. Total amount the market added on top, $63,000. The market contributed $63,000. You contributed $37,000. The market did more work than you did, and it will keep doing that work for as long as you leave it alone. That is the mechanism. That is the machine. And now I need to tell you the 3 specific ways people break it, because the math only works if you don't interrupt it. The first way people break the machine is withdrawal under pressure. Life gets expensive. The car needs repairs. The medical bill arrives. The rent goes up. And the brokerage account sitting there with $18,000 in it starts to look like an emergency fund. It is not an emergency fund. The moment you treat your investment account like a savings account, you are not just losing the money you withdraw, you are losing every dollar that money would have compounded into. A $5,000 withdrawal in year 4 doesn't cost you $5,000. Calculated against a 10% annual return over the remaining 11 years of that 15-year window, that $5,000 withdrawal costs you approximately $14,200 in final account value. Every dollar that leaves the machine early carries a future cost that is invisible in the moment but permanent in the outcome. This is why the monthly contribution amount must be calibrated to a number that does not pressure the rest of your budget. $200 a month that you sustain for 15 years will massively outperform $500 a month that you abandon in year 3. Sustainability is the strategy. Consistency is the compounding multiplier that no calculator shows you as a line item. The second way people break it is reacting to market crashes, and this one is psychologically brutal because a crash feels like a crisis. When your $27,000 account drops to $19,000 in the span of 3 months, and at some point across a 15-year window it will, every instinct you have been trained to follow says, get out, stop the bleeding, come back when it's stable. That instinct is the most expensive financial reflex the middle class has. Here is what actually happens during a market crash when you keep contributing. Your monthly $200 now buys more shares than it did when the market was high. Every share you purchase at a depressed price is a share you will hold when the market recovers. The 2020 COVID crash saw the S&P 500 drop 34% in 33 days. It recovered fully within 5 months. The investors who kept their automatic contributions running during those 33 days bought the entire correction at discount prices and rode the full recovery on top. The investors who panicked and withdrew locked in their losses permanently and missed the fastest recovery in market history. The market does not crash to hurt you. It crashes because it is a living system made of human emotion and economic cycles. Your job is not to predict the cycles. Your job is to outlast them. Time in the market, not timing the market. This is the moment I want to stop for 1 second, because if what you're seeing in this video is building something real for you, something that is shifting how you think about money and time, and the invisible machinery underneath both, I want you to hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this channel exists to give you the financial operating manual that nobody handed you growing up, and there is a lot more where this came from. Back to the third way people break the machine, and this one is the quietest and most destructive of the 3: lifestyle creep. You get a raise, your monthly cash flow increases by $400, and within 90 days, without a single conscious decision, your monthly expenses have absorbed most of that $400. The streaming services upgrade, the grocery budget relaxes, the car payment gets slightly more comfortable. The raise disappears into the texture of your lifestyle before it ever had a chance to become wealth. The antidote is a rule that the financially disciplined use without exception. Every income increase is split. Half goes to lifestyle, half goes to the investment account. Every time, automatically, no negotiation, no exceptions, no waiting for next month. The moment your income goes up, the contribution goes up by half the difference. This is not deprivation. This is the mechanism that turns a $200 a month investor into a $350 a month investor, into a $500 a month
month investor over the arc of a career without ever feeling the sacrifice, because the lifestyle half rises alongside it. Now I want to address the question sitting in the back of your mind if you've been doing the math while watching this video. What if I can contribute more than $200 a month? What does that do to the timeline? At $400 a month, you cross $100,000 in approximately 10 years. At $600 a month, you're there in under 9. At $1,000 a month, you're there in approximately 7. The starting $1,000 doesn't matter less and less as your monthly contribution increases. What the $1,000 does is something specific and psychological. It makes you an investor on day one. It means you are not starting from zero. You have skin in the game. You have a position. And having a position changes how you relate to the market. You start to watch it differently. You read the news differently. The S&P 500 is no longer an abstraction. It is your money moving in real time. That psychological shift is worth more than the $1,000 itself. There is one more piece of this structure that the financial media almost never talks about: tax-advantaged accounts. Because here's what most people don't realize. If you run the entire 15-year strategy inside a taxable brokerage account, you owe capital gains tax on every dollar the market generates for you above your cost basis. At a long-term capital gains rate of 15% for most middle-income earners on $63,000 of market gains across 15 years, you are writing a check to the IRS for approximately $9,400 when you eventually sell. If you run the exact same strategy inside a Roth IRA, which any person earning under $146,000 per year qualifies for in 2024, that $9,400 disappears entirely. The gains are tax-free. The withdrawals in retirement are tax-free. The government gets nothing. You keep everything the machine produced. The Roth IRA contribution limit is $7,000 per year. $200 a month is $2,400 per year. Well within that limit. Your entire strategy fits inside a Roth IRA. That is not a loophole. It is a legal structure that Congress built and that most people leave sitting unused because nobody told them it existed. Open the Roth IRA first. Max it before you touch a taxable account. The $63,000 in market gains you are targeting across 15 years should belong entirely to you, not partially to the IRS. Now let's bring this all the way back to the number. $1,000 today, $200 a month, S&P 500 index fund inside a Roth IRA. Zero experience required, zero financial background needed, zero timing of the market. 15 years, $100,000, of which you contributed $37,000. And the market, the same market the financial industry told you was too complicated, too risky, too exclusive for someone like you, added $63,000 on top. The only 4 things that can prevent this outcome are withdrawing early, panic selling during a crash, letting lifestyle creep consume your contributions, or never starting. 3 of those 4 are behavioral. 1 is a decision you make right now, today, in the next 24 hours, by opening a Roth IRA at Fidelity or Schwab, depositing your $1,000, buying the index fund, setting the monthly auto contribution, and then leaving it alone. The system does not require you to be smart once it is set up. It requires you to be patient. Patience is the only skill the market actually rewards. Not analysis, not timing, not financial genius. Patience. But here is the final piece, the uncomfortable reframe I want you to carry out of this video. The question has never been whether you could do this. The question has always been whether anyone would tell you clearly enough, specifically enough, that you believed it was real and meant for you. The financial system is not neutral. Banks profit from your inaction. Brokerages profit from your trading activity. Financial advisors, on average, collect 1% of your assets per per year for results that trail the index you could own for 0.03%. The entire infrastructure around money in this country is monetizing your confusion. Every year you spend convinced that investing is too complicated, too risky, too exclusive, is a year that confusion costs you roughly 10% in unrealized market returns. You now have the map, not a vague outline, a specific structure with specific numbers, specific accounts, specific funds, and a specific timeline. $1,000, $200 a month, Roth IRA, S&P 500 index fund. 15 years, $100,000. The machine is available. The rules are public. The math is verified by 50 years of market history. The only thing standing between where you are right now and what that number could become is the decision you make in the next 24 hours. Start small, start now, and do not stop.